Hey, it's MJ from the Coaches Panel. I hope you're well, and welcome back to another player review as we look at every single person that moved clubs during the off-season via trade and free agency. Tell you what it means for them in their new club, what it means for their old club, and for us that play SuperCoach, AFL Fantasy and Dream Team, I'll wrap it up for you about what it means for them and the surrounding movements for 2024. Talking about Bigoa Nyuon, who has moved from the Tigers through to North Melbourne, and this might be just one of the shortest episodes we do of all the player reviews. Just the one game at Richmond in 2022, a real development style player, a key position defender who at times has shown at VFL and the one AFL game, he certainly can chop out when it comes to a ruck contest if required, but a really handy squad depth option for Richmond. Like I said, he's been on an AFL list for a handful of years now, and just the one game. He's developing okay. I think he's just short of 200 centimetres and a couple of kilos away from 100 kilos. So big, strong, tall guy. Loves to take an intercept mark and reasonably hard to match up against one-on-one as an intercept and also lockdown defender. So I think Richmond will lose a little bit of depth there, but again, one game on an AFL list after a handful of seasons. I don't think the Tigers are going to be too disappointed. They lost some really helpful tall defenders this year. Josh Gibcus missed a lot of this season, and yet Biggie still couldn't get into the team. They had a number of other guys fall away and retire over the past 2 years. That defensive line is developing again under now a brand new coach, and I think Biggie saw the opportunity to get a longer job security on a contract, but also two, a greater opportunity to come his way. And so I don't mind the move from Biggie, and I don't think Richmond will begrudge him, or will they lose too much by allowing him to move on. From a North Melbourne perspective, they've lost probably their cornerstone of that back line in a Ben Mackay moving to Essendon as a free agent, and so it doesn't surprise me that two of the moves they've already made this off-season, one is a delisted free agent in Toby Pink, and also the addition now via trade of Bigoa Nyuon, is to try to get some depth in that key position line. They're not flush for options. I know an Aiden Core is there, but they're not flushed for great depth of key position defenders. So I think Biggie's coming in and just add some depth to that squad. I'm not so sure he's the guy that's going to get first crack, but there's a long off-season for us through there. What does it mean for fantasy? Well, first, he's got to crack that number one or number two key defensive spot in the side. I figure who they draft and who they pick up through the latter part of the draft in the opening round will be fascinating to me. It is more of a key position draft, and there are some reasonable key defenders that you can get sort of in the back half of picks sort of 15 to 25, where they've got a bunch of picks after their first two early selections. So it wouldn't surprise me to see them jump on a couple of these options, maybe a developing tall forward as well, and see what lands for them. That could be definitely a play. So Biggie's a chance to play for sure, but even if he does beat out Pink or anybody else for this key position lockdown role, he'll be cheap. He'll be basement price, but he's a lockdown key position defender. And even if there's plenty of ball coming into that North Melbourne backline, his job is not going to be there to get involved in any of the transitions or the intercepts or anything like that. As much as he can intercept as a player, his job will be there to lock down and to prevent tall forwards from doing scoreboard damage on them. So yes, he'll be cheap. I'm not convinced he's going to be in the team round one. There's a chance, obviously, but key position lockdown defenders generally aren't great scorers. I think in the one game he had in 2022, I think he went sort of low 20s in AFL Fantasy Dream Team and mid 30s in SuperCoach. So really not a scorer. Not too sure you're going to be heading down that path. It's got to be a pretty desperate space for us this off-season if Bigoa Nyuon is the guy that we're going to need to have at D7 or D8 this year. Yep, he's a chance to get games, and it wouldn't shock me to see him get a handful or two, but lockdown key position defenders are just not fantasy relevant. Do you agree or disagree on my take on Biggie, though? You can comment below in this video. You can go back and check through the playlist here on YouTube for every other player that's moved clubs this off off-season, there are some really fantasy relevant players that have moved clubs. Make sure you follow the channel, turn on the notifications, and every single time we have a new episode up, you will get notified straight to your device. Thanks for watching, and we can't wait to chat about another player that's moved clubs very, very soon.